Hello, my amazing Algebra Half students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. And today we're talking about lesson 93, which is all about operations with signed numbers. So what we're really talking about here is order of operations. And you're going to learn a lot more about order of operations as you learn more math. But right now, we're going to learn that always do multiplication before you add or subtract. Now, you will also do division before you add and subtract, but your book is not yet showing you division, so we'll save that part. So right now, for today's lesson, always multiply before you add and subtract. And if you see anything that's in these symbols of inclusion, parentheses, brackets, and braces, you will do those first. So you will evaluate whatever's in these symbols first, and inside those you will multiply before you add or subtract. So here we only have 2 problems today and 2 practices. So I have the big board because these problems are really long all the way across. So can you see that right here I have a symbol of inclusion? I have parentheses, and then over here I have a big bracket, and inside the bracket are some parentheses. So I'm going to do those first. So this one is on the left. If we have more than one symbol of inclusion, we always work left to right and inside out. Okay, so left to right and inside out. So here in this one, -2 minus 3 plus 1. Now when we have a -3, isn't that the same thing as a plus a -3? So we're going to get used to writing everything in addition. So -2 plus a -3 plus a 1 is what we have inside that parenthesis. So same sign, add, which is a -5, and then take the common sign, -5. Same sign, add, take the common sign. So this is a -5 plus a 1. When we have opposite signs, -5, +1, we really subtract the absolute values. 5 minus 1 is 4, but it will be a -4 because the -4 is the bigger guy, farther away from 0. So -4 is the answer in the symbol of inclusion. So now I'm going to move over here and do the next one. And all I'm going to do is just bring down the -2 because we'll do him on the next sweep through. And then we come over here. And so inside, I have a little symbol of inclusion, -3 plus a -2. Okay, because that minus is being turned to plus a minus. So same sign, I'm going to add them and get a -5. And then times the 4. You see, this was one little symbol of inclusion, so I did it first because it was in a symbol of inclusion. So then I had -5 times 4, and that is in the bigger box here, the bracket. So that's a -20. So -20, and I can put it in here if I want to, and I bring down the minus sign. Okay, so isn't that what I have now? So now my final answer is going to be -2 times a -4 is a +8. I can see right now that I should not have written all of this down here getting ready for the next problem because I need more board room and I'm just going to have to write it again, right? So let's go here. And -2 times a -4 is a +8 minus a -20. And 8 minus a -20, when we do minus a negative, remember subtraction is addition of the opposite. So we can take this sign and change both signs, and we have the same equivalent expression. So 8 plus 20 is 28, And that is the correct answer. So, can you see the whole board? We did this one first and got a -5 plus a 1 is a -4. We brought down our -2. Then this is a minus sign. We did this first and got a -5 times the 4 was a -20. Brought down our minus sign. Then we did a +8 because a negative times a negative is a positive. Subtraction is addition of the opposite, so we changed minus a -20 to plus a +20. We got a 28. So now I have to go write the other problem back down again. Okay, so here we have the second long problem, and we have a symbol of inclusion here, and we have a symbol of inclusion inside another symbol of inclusion that we're going to have to do in the right order. So -2 minus 3 times 5. Now remember, we have to do the symbol of inclusion first, but here we have a times 5, and there's no parenthesis in here to tell me about order. So I must do the times 5 first. So I'm going to do -3 times 5 before I do this addition or subtraction here. This is going to go first. So I'm going to get -2. -3 times a +5 would be a -15. And then -2 plus a -15 is going to be, remember I can change that to plus a negative. So -2 plus a -15 is a -17 inside this parenthesis. So we'll bring the -2, we'll just bring it down, and then we move on to the next one. Now inside here, I've got a minus and I've got a times, but the minus is inside another symbol of inclusion. So I have to do it first. So 3 minus 5 has to go first. 3 minus 5 is a -2. And then times the 2 plus the 2. Okay, and all of that is in a big symbol of inclusion. So I have to do that before I can mess with the -2. All right, so -2 times 2 is going to go next because it's multiplication and that's just addition. So -2 times 2 is a -4 plus a 2, bracket, bracket, and then -4 plus a 2 is opposite sign. I'm going to subtract, and so that's going to be -2. Take the sign of the greater, that is farther away from 0, a greater absolute value. So now I finally got the -2. I'm going to bring down the -2 here in the front. So now let's see if I've got it all together. -2, parenthesis, -2, and all of that was a -2. Okay, so all of this is my equation. I just kind of ran down a line there. Can you tell? So -2 times a -17 is a +34. And a -2 times a -2 is a +4. 34 plus 4 is a 38. And that is your answer. Okay, so look at all the work. We did parenthesis and finished it, and then put the -2 in the front. So that was the parenthesis, was -17. We did parenthesis, and then we did another multiplication, and then we finally added the last 2, and then we multiplied by the -2 here. We got +34, got +4, and we wound up with 38. Can you see it? All right, so guess what time it is? It's time for us to do a practice. Okay, so here is your first practice problem. So you need to copy it down very carefully. This is number A in your blue book, and we need to pause your video so that you can try it by yourself and then come back and check it. So copy it down and then pause your video. So here we go. We're going to look for our symbols of inclusion. So here we go. That's a symbol of inclusion. And then do you see that we have a symbol of inclusion inside a bigger symbol of inclusion? So remember, we do our symbols of inclusion left to right, but then inside out. Okay, so here we've got a -3 plus a -5. We can change that subtraction to addition of the opposite. We're going to end up with a -8, and we will bring down the rest of that expression right here. There's our -2. Plus, now we're ready to start evaluating all of this. So we're going to go to the innermost symbol of inclusion, which is -2 plus 8. And so -2 plus 8 is +6. So we're going to have 6 times 6, +6, plus 2. And then we'll put our little bracket there. So now inside the symbol of inclusion, this is no longer a symbol of inclusion. This is indicating a multiplication when there is no variable there, just to keep it from being, so this is just 6 times 6, but times goes before addition. So 6 times 6 is 36, 36 plus 2, so 36 plus 2 is 38. Okay, so we bring that at 38. Outside of that was the plus sign. And then we'll go ahead and rewrite this. And that's our problem. So now what are we going to do? -2 times the -8 gets done before addition. So +16 plus 38 is 6 plus 8 is 14. Carry my 1. And I'll get a 54. Okay, so 54 is my answer. So hopefully you did that one. Oops, I'm about to drop my board. Hopefully you did that right. We did this one first. Got the -8, brought down the -2. We did this one next and got the 6. 6 times 6 was 36. And then finally we add on the 2 to get the 38. And then we brought down the plus sign. And then we had this one that we brought down. -2 times -8 is +16 plus the 38 is going to be 54. Can you see the board? Okay, so that was practice number 1. We have one more practice to do. Okay, so this is your last practice. This is practice B, and then we'll be done with lesson 93. So what I want you to do is copy it down very carefully, and then pause your video, try to do it by yourself, and then come back and check and see if you did it right. So pause your video. All right, so we're going to start with the leftmost symbol of inclusion, and then we realize that this one has an inside and an outside. So we'll always do the inside one before the outside one, but we'll always move left to right. So let's do this one first. -8 plus a -2 is a -10. And then we'll bring down the 3. Look at this. We have one that's not in any kind of inclusion. We can put it down. And then we have minus this whole bracket. But inside the bracket, we've got 4. And then the 3 minus the 2 is a 1. Okay, so 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, so now let's bring everything down. This one was no longer a symbol of inclusion. It is just keeping the -10 and the 3 separate because that's a multiplication. So 3 times the -10 is a -30 plus the 2 minus the 4. -30 plus a -4 is a -34 plus 2. Okay, that 2, I just put it on the end. So we could have the 2 negatives. Now you can do it a different way. You could do it in pieces. We'll do it both ways. So negative 34 plus a 2, opposite signs. So we're going to go two different directions, aren't we? We subtract and take the sign of the bigger and get negative 32. Now let me show you that even though I changed the order and I went and I did the minus first, it didn't make any difference. Let's do these two first. Negative 30 plus a positive 2 is a negative 28, excuse me, negative 28 minus the 4. And what do I get? Negative 32 again. So it did not matter that I decided to do the negatives together first. That's just kind of a fast trick. Now that one was your last problem. Okay, so starting left to right, we got the negative 10. We jumped over here and we did the 1. The 4 times the 1. We brought down the negative sign, brought down the 2, brought down the negative 30. Negative 30 plus 2 was a negative 28, and the negative 28 plus a negative 4 was a negative 32. And I showed you another cool trick where we can, since we're treating this like plus a minus, and we're adding, we can add the negative 4 and the negative 30 first, and then add the positive 2. And we get exactly the same answer. That is the end of lesson 93. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.